It does need a refresh, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know what's wrong with being 60 that Kezia was just talking about, but there is something, once 25 years you've been doing the same thing, well, it's time to move on, isn't it?
Gary Lineker is to step down as host of the flagship football programme Match of the Day at the end of this season, and he'll stay on to present the World Cup in 2026. He's also been criticised for his political social media posts and for being paid 1.3 million quid of licence fee payers' money for what doesn't, at least to some people, seem like very much work. Martin Samuel is the Times' chief sports correspondent. Morning, Martin.
Good morning.
It's not a complete surprise, I don't think this is, but what's your kind of overriding reaction, emotion to this?
It's the presentable fact of the day. It's not really affecting my life greatly one way or another, I must admit.
Is he match of the day? Is he match of the day, or is match of the day just it's the football clips and the pundits, or is it Gary Lineker? Because we've got a lot of people saying that he is match of the day.
It's important to the show. Yeah, it's important to the show. I wrote the column on it a couple of weeks ago in the Sunday Times, and made the point that if the move to out Lineker is to attract a younger audience, then that's not going to work, because the young audience have grown up with Gary Lineker on Match of the Day. He's on Match of the Day for longer than any other presenter, longer than Jimmy Hill, longer than Des Lynam. All my kids are now in their 20s, in their late 20s. No, nobody else other than Gary Lineker on Match of the Day. They know him far more as that than they know him as a footballer.
Okay, Martin, I'm gonna cut in there just because sadly the line is just not quite good enough, which is really, really annoying, because I would have loved to have spoken to you about that. We'll see if we can improve it, but possibly not. But you're hinting at the kind of generational thing, really, because, you know, Gary Lineker obviously means different things to different people. Some people remember him as a footballer, and he did the unthinkable, really, didn't he? Because he went from being a player to a TV presenter.
And he was really good at it. I mean, some people really dislike him because he's opinionated, but he's really good at his job. But is the job worth anything? You know, being wry and charming and smooth and likeable in order to influence clips, is that worth 1.3 million quid a year to the BBC? And do people actually watch it? Luke got in touch earlier on, which I think is a really good point, because I was saying, actually, is Match of the Day outdated? Do we no longer need Match of the Day because we've got YouTube? And Luke says, it's ridiculous to celebrate Lineker, going, most football pundits in this country are dinosaurs who still think Harry Redknapp knows what he's talking about. Gary has adapted to speak eloquently on the modern game as it's continued to adapt. The sad truth is most football fans in England are not actually fans of the support, but some idea they have of what the support means that exists purely in their head. Saying what's the point of a Match of the Day in 2024 is the same argument as asking why Times Radio exists in an age of TikTok. Which I understand the point, is a very well made point, but there's if you think that Match of the Day is just here are the goals, you can get the goals in lots of other places, including for free.
But maybe some people want to get them quick and free, and some people are happy with that kind of framework.
Yeah.
Slightly old-fashioned. For example, someone like Guy, I do have Sky Sports, but early morning, Sunday morning, watching Match of the Day on iPlayer, accompanied by a large mug of Earl Grey tea, wholemeal toast with butter and Marmite. I'm loving the detail. I like Lineker, but he is not why people watch the programme, and therefore difficult to justify the salary. And Martin has told us about all, you know, Gary Lineker's other interests, obviously his podcast empire. He says Match of the Day is a mere side hustle for Gary, and yet he wanted to continue.
Yeah.
That's what we're led to believe.
But why wouldn't you? Because it's a great job, and there's nothing wrong with tradition. You know, people still buy newspapers because they like the experience of holding it in their hands. I buy books because I like the experience of holding. I mean, I could just have the words pushed into my ears by an actor. I mean, some people really like that, but I choose to read a book, and maybe you would choose to watch Match of the Day. I just wonder whether they're not going to can it, though, are they?
No, they're not. They're definitely not going to can it. Who would you like to see presenting Match of the Day? I mean, there are some
Alan
kind
Shearer.
of... Stop it. Just because you want me to leave the country.
I mean, I'm sure Alan Shearer's also a really, really nice, a really nice man. I don't mean to be horrible. I find punditry in this. I watch a lot of American sport, and American sport punditry is brilliant.
Okay.
They tell you things you couldn't possibly know.
Yeah.
And what they do in England, certainly English football, is they go, that was a corner and he headed it in. Yeah, I saw that. please tell me something I don't actually know because I'm not a player. And I think they're terrible at that.
The odds on seems to be people like Gabby Logan, Mark Chapman, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the BBC are not going to take a kind of flying bet at someone particularly unknown. I wouldn't have thought, but if you have a better nomination for Match of the Day, then you can get in touch with us.
We were talking things over with Kezia Dugdale and William Hay. Gary Lineker has been host of Match of the Day for 25 years, longer than anyone else. He's not retiring though, his contract just isn't being extended. He's leaving the BBC after the 2026 World Cup, which is his successor as Match of the Day host would want to be in charge of, but he's not going to be. So he's going to finish this season on Match of the Day, presumably go off and earn money doing podcasts and other broadcasters, and then come back to do the World Cup in 2026. Is this the BBC's loss or Gary's or both? The BBC's Director of Sport, Alex Kajelski, apparently doesn't rate him, according to the Times media editor. Don't feel too sorry for him. He's done pretty well, Gary Lineker. And I actually think he's very...
I think we rate him, though, don't we?
He's very good at his job.
Yeah.
He winds some people up. He may get paid too much money. There's an argument that Match of the Day is an anachronism, but none of those things actually are his fault when it comes to, is he a good presenter or not? I think he probably is. Kezia Dugdale, will you miss him? Does it matter? Do you get to watch it very late in Scotland so you don't actually care that much either way?
Look, I love Gary Lineker. I'm a huge fan of Gary Lineker. I do think this is a bit of an end of an era, though, right? Like he's done 25 years. It's time to do something different. He's got his own business. He's doing very well with his podcasting. He's, I think, 60. I hope I'm not doing a terrible harm to him.
More than that, I think.
He's getting a bit. Yeah, he's getting a bit older. It's time to do something different. Yeah. And I think it's probably a welcome break for everyone involved in this. He'll be sorely missed because he's got that, expertise. He's literally got skin in the game and a great sense of humour and a little bit of edge. So that's a lot of different attributes that you'd be looking for in a successor. I just hope maybe the successor is a woman. I think we've made such great strides in kind of equality in sport that it might be time for the primetime football show to be presented by a woman.
All right. Would you want Gabby Logan?
Or Alex Scott, or a number of different candidates.
You wonder whether Alex Scott? There's too many angry men about Alex. I mean, that's no reason not to appoint her, actually. But you could imagine that Alex Scott. There are people who are the constituency of Match of the Day. They might not want her, which may not be the right decision, but that will be definitely on people on the BBC's mind. You would think.
Yeah, but what do I know about programming when it comes to TV and radio? But is the idea that you replace the job exactly as it was before, or do you try and think about what this program looks like for the next 5, 10, 20 years and anticipate the audience for that? And maybe in the future it'll be a younger, more female audience that also tunes into a program like that on a Saturday night. Who knows? So, it's maybe not just an exact like for like, and maybe it's not driven entirely by the needs of your average Saturday night football fan.
That's an interesting point. And actually, there's a question here, William. Is it an anachronism now that we constantly on this programme are charting the course of modern life? And one of the things is that football is on channels all day. You can get, when Forest play, I watch 2.5 minute highlights, 30 minutes after the game on YouTube for free on the Sky Sports YouTube channel. I don't need Match of the Day. Maybe there's an argument the BBC spends a fortune of our money on Match of the Day. Do we need it anymore?
Well, it still has an audience, doesn't it? And actually, I don't think everything should switch over to shorter bits of analysis. In general in life. I mean, I think one of the things about politics, for instance, is there isn't enough now on television in-depth analysis of what is going on. You can get that from podcasts, but
Times Radio. Excuse me. Go on.
Well, of course, I'm taking for granted you get it from radio, but you don't get it on the BBC to the same extent. You don't get the the big Robin Day interview that we used to have, and things like that. So I don't think football should go the same way as politics. So there's still a role for a program like this, but it does need a refresh, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know what's wrong with being 60 that Kezia was just talking about, but there is something. Once 25 years you've been doing the same thing, well, it's time to move on, isn't it? When we've been, Asma's tragically leaving soon anyway, but when we've all been on this for 25 years, I think we'll have had
Maybe it's Asma. Maybe Asma's the new presenter.
Well, we've had that. We've had that session. I'm very prepared to start the campaign now. Is 60 too old to be Chancellor of Oxford, William, or you're still youthful enough for that?
Oh no, that's spring chicken in chancellorial.
Yeah.
No, in fact, it would be very. I haven't done the maths on this, but there would be very few people who have ever been chancellor in modern times who were over 60 when they were.
You're just heading into your prime. Kezia, if Gary Lineker was rabidly right wing, would you still think he's as good a presenter as you do? How much is it coloured by the fact that you probably agree with him when he goes on social media and espouses liberal cause? I just wonder whether his liberality actually affects your judgment of him as a person.
Unquestionably, of course it does. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to try and shake that off. But it's not just that. Like I like him. I am drawn to him. I probably am drawn to him because we would share some similar views on some topics. But there are other. I like William. William and I share some shared values, and there are lots of things that we disagree on. I don't think it's entirely about politics. I just find them both incredibly charismatic men, and that's what I would look for.
There we go. Someone here says it'll be Claire Balding. She's taking over the BBC One Rubbish Show at a time, says Catherine. Rosie says, I'm heartily sick of people saying it's time for a woman. Anyone remember Truss? It should always be the best person for the job. That person, though, according to Phil, may well be Gabby Logan, who also is a woman.
Come on, Gabby.